Welcome back to Cheche. Today's guest is NASA Principal and the Mani National Congress Party leader Musalia Wadavadi. He seems to be the man of the political moment, with speculation rife about his prospects for the presidency come August, the August general election. And so later on today, President Kenyatta will be giving his State of the Nation address. What would you like to hear him speak to?
First of all, insecurity. We have seen a resurgence of insecurity in a number of areas in our country. I think it is absolutely important that
you're speaking particularly about Laikipia, Samburu and all these...
Laikipia, Samburu, Baringo.
Right.
These are areas that one needs to look at very, very seriously at this point in time, and bearing in mind that we are approaching an election. So we must be clear that is this possibly a politically instigated process, or is it a genuine situation of people maybe fighting over pasture and the effects of drought? You know, so these are fundamental issues that they must get to the bottom of, so that we do not see an escalation, especially when we get to elections. Otherwise, it could spread like a bushfire, and we could have a situation where the democratic process in this country could be undermined, and also lives and lost unduly. So that, I think, is something that he needs to perhaps come clear on, and with a lot of clarity. Public debt.
That's been your pet topic, isn't it? Because you're an economist.
Yes, it has been something I've been emphasizing and repeating, because when NASA takes over, when it
That's
takes
fairly
over,
confident.
yeah, the biggest challenge the NASA government is going to have is to deal with the public debt.
The Minister of Finance was here a few weeks ago and said that it's nothing. That's not an issue. Okay. They're supposed to borrow whatever percent of GDP.
About 30%.
No, I think we were at 47.
He gave figures and said it's not an issue.
No, there are parameters, and he keeps on saying that it's not an issue. Let me tell you, and I want to repeat here for the benefit of Kenyans, that we really must look at the profile of our public debt. Borrowing is not the problem, but what is the structure and profile of that public debt? A lot of the programs, whether it is the standard gauge railway, especially the ones that are coming in from China at this point in time, we need to see full disclosure as to how much of it is concessionary and how much of it is commercial.
The reason
because
the difference in rates, and
the difference in rates, the repayment period, and the quantum that you will be required at every other minute to repay. The other thing that
isn't that a matter of public knowledge?
Is it?
I don't know. I'm not an economist.
Those in the know will know that this thing is the way it's going it's going to reach an unsustainable level. Let me give you another example. Just look at the public borrowing now, even from the treasury bills and treasury bonds. It is serious. The treasury and the central bank, they put out the bills and bonds. They say they want to raise 13 billion or something like that, and the next thing they receive offers of about 35 billion. Everybody is directing there. They cheated us that by capping interest rates, there is going to be more access to credit to Wanjiko. But in reality, what has happened, it has tightened, and no bank wants to lend to Wanjiko.
But the banks were saying so.
There is no credit expansion.
The bank actually said that's what it is.
Yeah, no credit expansion is taking place. The appetite that we are seeing in terms of who is taking the money in the system, it is the government. And why are they taking it? They are taking it because they are under pressure to start a lot of repayments on the public debt. Now, this is a very serious matter because it effectively means that there will be no money for development very soon. And even the ability to borrow thereafter is going to be seriously diminished because even the lenders will realize that you are overstretched.
So, this NASA government, when it comes in, if it comes in, with the President Musalia at the helm of a government of hypocrites, how would you address these?
I think that is unfair.
That's unfair.
Yes, it is offline.
Okay.
It's offline.
It wasn't
wrong.
offline. No, it wasn't offline. We said it on air.
No, but it's a dangerous joke because you are sending a wrong message to the Kenyan people.
Okay.
But it was informed by statements that were made.
No. I think, in all fairness, even as the members of the Fourth Estate, I think it is important that you communicate right.
I'm teasing you. So President Musalia, head of the NASA government, you've talked about insecurity, you've talked about the public debt, you've also talked about, in other fora, you've talked about corruption. How would you address the corruption and cohesion? How would you address those? Starting with cohesion, because that's the thing that seems to be tearing apart the fabric of the nation.
In terms of cohesion, and I will not shy away from talking about some of these things, when we promulgated our new constitution, there was a genuine debate as to whether it is the document that meets the aspirations of all Kenyans. All right? And I want to come clean on this so that this debate can now move to a next level. Now, in the build-up to the Constitution, there was the Bombers draft. And in the Bombers draft, people wanted to see a situation where the government is truly accountable to the people, but also a government that is all-inclusive and broad-based, bearing and taking into account the structure and dynamics of the Kenyan situation. So one of the things that we in NASA are saying we should not shy away from debating is that the Constitution as currently structured, okay, we should perhaps be courageous enough and engage the public that are they satisfied that the structure of the executive as it stands now is all-inclusive, or does it seem to isolate other Kenyans when two players from one community and the other are at the helm? Now, this is a fundamental question.
How is it fundamental? Sorry, let's stop before you go on to number two.
Yes.
How is it fundamental? Because you have previously told us that it's a question of the person at the helm and the team. So the Constitution envisages an executive that represents the face of Kenya. Now, if the people at the top don't necessarily reflect that, is that the fault of the Constitution or the fault of the people who are supposed to be implementing it?
When we voted in, we are trying to find solutions, aren't we? And we are trying to look at a long-term solution to some of the challenges that we face as a country. And we are now going beyond the holders of the office here. We are looking at the future of this country. Now, for instance, when I say accountable, does the Kenyan public feel that the government is accountable? Is that perception there? People, in my view, may want to reconsider whether we should not have a government that has a strong parliamentary component to it, so that ministers and those in government can be seriously held to account. Because right now, the way the structure is, it's as if there is no accountability, and the Kenyan public feels that ministers or the government is not answerable.
But they're always in Parliament answering
again.
Come on.
Again, the question becomes: is it the Constitution or the people? Because this question keeps coming up in various iterations on Cheche, that we must legislate to strengthen this, that or the other because it's not working at the moment because of the people. But isn't this a failure of Kenyan society? That even though Parliament is charged with oversight, it fails to execute. That even though we have a constitution that says reflect the face of Kenya, that is not implemented.
So if we are having these challenges, we should not then shy away from trying to figure out what should be the next way out.
Elect better people. Choose better people. Be better leaders.
But better people, and sometimes even institutions and the laws that are there can also hinder better people from doing certain things. So let us look at it holistically here. And everybody will remember the famous debates that 20% of our constitution...
The presidential debates of 2013.
Yes, 20% of our constitution may not be exactly what the Kenyans wanted. Now, to be sincere to the Kenyan people, let us come clean and say that we are ready to open up everything, including looking at the areas of the Constitution that may not be functioning appropriately for the Kenyan people. And to do that, then we would have to follow the constitutional process to revisit some of these areas. Whether it means a referendum on some of the issues or not, we will have to look at that.
And what's your preference be?
I think a strong bias. Personally, I think I have a strong bias now to a system that will provide for more power sharing and accountability of the leadership of this country than as currently structured.
There's a specific question about accountability.
By the way, I don't know whether we are through. There's also devolution.
There's also devolution. No, we haven't got time for that.
Yeah, but I hope because the government of the day, the national government, has not displayed commitment to devolution, and this is displayed in many ways. It's not just about resource allocation and what have you, but the spats that we have been seeing between the head of state and the governors is not the example.
There are those who would say that these are teething problems as we got accustomed to the new dispensation.
But teething problems where you want to confine a governor to his office. I mean, isn't it possible that you can just simply tell Mutegi, I don't want you to come to my meeting? Yeah. Why send police?
It's been a rough week.
Why send police to confine Mutegi into... It's
been a rough week for the president because in addition to the incident you're referring to, the governor of Mombasa, Joho, trying to access the president's rally at the coast, there's also been, he's been criticized for coarse language.
Precisely.
What you said in Turkana also.
Yeah, coarse languages, it's all within that basket. But you talked about accountability, and there's a specific question, that came in from one of our forums, which is that what would you do in your first year as president? Would you make that commitment public, and would you resign if you failed to deliver on those commitments?
I think one of the things that we have said as NASA, and this was signed in the coalition document, that we need to go beyond what you would call the simple declaration forms that are currently embedded in our structure. We have undertaken that within the NASA framework, irrespective of who is the flag bearer, the message we want to put across is that this time the declaration of your assets and your liabilities should be public, not just tucked away in an envelope, which is then opened at the end of your five-year term. It should be made public, and then people will be able to monitor what you...
That speaks to personal integrity.
Right. Now, that is the whole thing. The whole issue is we start from there. Now, this is very different from the kind of commitment that we have seen. Because what we have now and the laws that we have are those that you do the declaration and you keep it quiet.
Okay. The question
but
was
now
specific
we want it to be open.
to what are you going to deliver for Kenyans in your first year as president, if you were to become president, and would you resign if you failed to deliver on those commitments?
I think that is not... would I be making commitments that are delivered within the first year, or commitments that are supposed to be delivered within a 2-year framework or a 3-year framework? That's why I'm hesitant to answer that question, because you cannot say that I'm delivering this within the first 100 days or within the whatever, and because I've not delivered this within the 100 days. Let us be realistic here in terms of the management. There are certain fundamental principles that will be essential. Those ones must be upheld, all right? And then there are those that could be simple or minor operational issues. Okay, so it must be the fundamental breaches that can cause somebody to resign.
Apart from wealth declaration, at a personal level, personal integrity, how else would you handle corruption?
Let the institutions work. Get institutions and perhaps even strengthen some of them. I mean, look at what we are seeing today in the debate around the Auditor General. That does not reflect a commitment to fighting corruption. Because constitutionally you have given this office the mandate to audit entities. And then when he's doing it, the next thing is that you hunt him out of office. What has he stumbled on? What has he stumbled on that somebody is worried that they should try and get him out of office before he brings it out? You know, these are the fundamental questions. And there are so many challenges. Let me tell you, there's even the geothermal sector, in the energy sector. You know, there are about, let me just quickly plug, there are about 7 rigs which belong to the geothermal. These rigs have been lying idle. Public resources, lying idle. Yet, contracts are being signed on the side for private rigs, private rigs to be used to continue drilling. They are being paid money, and those of the geothermal are lying idle.
That's a failure of institutions. What would you do if institutions failed you in the fight against corruption? The other day we had the president say, we have the judiciary, we have EFCC. What do you want me to do? Would you ask the same question, or what would you do?
No, we have said we shall not ask the same question.
Okay. Our time is running out, so panelists, I can't come to you for your final thoughts. But what I will ask our guests to do, you said that you will work extremely hard to restore faith and confidence in politics, but also to Kenyans. But we know that in NASA, within your ranks, you're neither angels nor are you paragons of virtue. So how will you ensure, as you wind up, tell us how you will ensure a return to the Kenya that the Constitution envisions?
I will be honest to the Kenyan people. It's through sheer honesty and hard work that we shall restore the dignity
that President Uhuru Kenyatta was being honest when he told us that there was corruption in his office. That's honesty, isn't it?
And the institutions.
Are you allowed to put it in the right context? You asked me what would I do.
But that is honesty.
I talked about honesty.
Yes.
If Uhuru was being honest or not, I think you should interview him directly on the same issue. I'm not here to answer for Uhuru. If he says there was corruption in his office, it is up to him to deal with it.
And that was precisely my question. How will you handle institutional failure?
Let me get there. Once I'm there, I will handle it differently.
But we want assurance that you can vote for you.
That's what I'm saying. I will handle it differently. And when I talk about honesty, I'll not be giving excuses. I will be very clear that this is what ought to be done. And frankly speaking, I think in this forum or in one of the other interviews, I did say that if you are head of state and somebody is not doing things right, and you call this person and said, look, I'm looking you straight in the face, and I can tell you that the docket I gave you, I don't think I'm satisfied, and I don't think we can work together on this one. That would be clearly a message of telling you exit.
Exit, and then what?
Get
Because
a,
that happened.
get a better person.
No, no.
Look, allow me to ask, Mheshimiwa, are you satisfied with the constitution of IEBC now, so that if there are results you will not contest?
We are very worried about a number of things within the IEBC, particularly their preparedness, bearing in mind that our constitution now has really put a lot of emphasis on correct technology, or rather appropriate technology and working technology. We have seen serious delays in the procurement process by the current IBC. We have seen them fail to constitute the ICT committee that is supposed to involve the stakeholders, and therefore we are saying that they have a Herculean task, and they should take their responsibility as a national security issue.
Do you trust that they can hold free and fair elections in August?
We have said that they must come clean and tell us, because when I say it should be seen as a national security issue, they must come clean and speak now if they believe they are not ready. But
what
if
is about they're being hampered by the judiciary?
No, they're not being hampered by the judiciary. They're not being hampered by the judiciary. Let's be honest.
Sorry, I'm living on borrowed time.
The IBC had a lot of time to correct a lot of things. Okay? If they have not corrected those things, then they should be straight and tell Kenyans whether they think they're prepared or not prepared. Otherwise, they should make sure, they should look at this as a national security issue, because a botched election can seriously undermine
another botched election. Are you still pushing for the audit as NASA, now that you're all, a super alliance, for an audit?
Yes, we would want a clean register. This is really important, because even when they talk about the numbers growing and what have you, they never tell us how many guys have died, how many voters are off the register because of death or natural attrition, if you may call it that way. Did you find
the registration exercise that was just conducted, the numbers, curious?
Yes, in some areas they were curious, and in some areas you notice what they did. They had, immediately after the registration process, they returned 200 BVR kits. They collected them, retrieved them from the NYS. These are fundamental questions. When we were raising these issues earlier, that what happened, the IBC admitted they actually gave the NYS 200 BVR kits.
Okay, so we'll have to leave it there, unless you have any final words for Kenyans before we go. Do you? Would you like to say anything?
Yes, I just want to very quickly say that NASA is a national movement. It's a coalition of parties. We are for a strong nation. We want free and fair elections. We believe in democracy, and whatever we want to do in terms of changing the leadership of this country, we want to do in a democratic process. We are not a violent movement. We are a peaceful movement, and hence the Amani integration to this broad NASA Super Alliance.
Okay, we'll have to leave it there. For now, our guest this morning on Cheche was Musalia Mudavadi, the NASA principal, co-principal, and the Amani National Congress Party leader. So we thank you for your time on Cheche this morning, and the best of luck with your ambitions. Our thanks also to our panelists, Mutegi Njau and Charles Odhiambo. My name is Udwa Kamimo. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next week.